Hey everybody, I'm Joshua Orro, the Mustang Prince, and welcome to Mustang Prince Orro Reports. You know, with my friends at Musical Theater Village still performing Once Upon a Mattress this season, I feel in the mood to blog a few animated films that are fantasy related. So anyway, why don't we talk about Snow White again? Now at this point, this classical fairy tale needs no introduction, since I've already talked about it during my blogs of Disney's classic animated film from 1938, along with Red Shoes and the Seven Dwarfs, and of course, The Seventh Dwarf. However, while Disney is getting close to releasing their own live-action remake soon, for some time now, I've been thinking about blogging other Snow White movies like 2012's Mirror Mirror and 2007's Sydney White. But since I promised an animated adaptation, why don't we look back at a version which came from my childhood years and see what I think about it. So, released in the Philippines on June 30th, 1989, and in the United States on May 28th, 1993, the movie is Happily Ever After. Now, on for the plot of the movie. The evil queen is dead, and Snow White and the prince are on their way to get married. Unfortunately, Snow White's happily ever after is interrupted when Lord Maliss attacks her in the form of a dragon and takes Snow White's prince to the realm of doom. Enlisting the aid of the Seven Dwarfs' cousins, the Dwarfelles, Snow White must embark on a dangerous quest to save her true love. So, what are my thoughts on this movie? Well, let me make this perfectly clear. I understand that this movie is not perfect, but ever since I rented this movie from Netflix during my high school age, I found it to be a pretty interesting and entertaining animated film. And of course, these days, it's also very redeemable. And to further explain why I think so, let's move on to Mustang notes. The film was animated by Filmation, which was founded in 1962 by Lou Scheimer, Hal Sutherland, and Norm Prescott, until it sadly got defunct on February 3rd, 1989, and closed down. Now, aside from Happily Ever After, I am familiar with a few other Filmation movies like Journey Back to Oz with Liza Minnelli, Oliver Twist, and Pinocchio and the Emperor of the Night. The film began work in 1986, though 60% of it was done overseas. Filmation had previously developed a plan to create a series of direct-to-video sequels to popular Disney motion pictures, but only this film and Pinocchio and the Emperor of the Night were ever completed. Also, I heard that the movie got into some trouble. For you see, then Walt Disney Productions chairman Jeffrey Katzenberg regarded the project as a blatant rip-off of their properties, which led to a lawsuit by the Walt Disney Company in 1987. Fortunately, Filmation promised that their characters would not resemble the ones from the Disney film. Also, while Happily Ever After was released on DVD by Fox, as of 2021, the rights to the film are owned by Universal Studios through DreamWorks Animation, which holds the rights to much of the Filmation catalog. Now, what are my thoughts on the animation? Well, to me, the animation is pretty good, but at the same time, it's not really great either. In other words, it doesn't really top Disney, whom was the top dog during the 90s. However, I still like how mostly everything is drawn out, from the forests, which looks pretty peaceful sometimes, to the realm of doom, which looks really dark and foreboding. Also, while the 90s was a decade where anything was possible, and there were several Disney knockoffs at the time, while watching this movie, I understand that the film was and wasn't trying to be a sequel to Disney's Snow White, but in reality, I feel like it actually felt more like a sequel to the original Snow White fairy tale by the Grimm brothers. Plus, I think some parts of the story are very thrilling, dark, and daring, while a couple other parts can be pretty silly, but also fun at the same time. And now, let's talk about the characters, the voice actors, and their songs. Our main character, Snow White, is voiced by 80s pop singer Irene Cara, who sang What a Feeling from Flashdance, and she got to be in the original Fame film along with The Magic Voyage and 3 golden films like Beauty and the Beast, The Jungle King, and The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Like in the original fairy tale and other adaptations, this version of Snow White is kind, gentle, and loving, and she always gives comfort and support to everyone she meets. However, there are times throughout this movie where Snow White proves that she can be brave and courageous, so much so that she's able to hold her own against the evil Lord Malice, and she's willing to do anything to rescue her prince. Next we come to the Seven Dwarfs' cousins, the Seven Dwarfelles. First, there's Thunderella, voiced by Tracey Ullman, whom was in 2005's Once Upon a Mattress, Kronk's New Groove, Tim Burton's Corpse Bride, The Tale of Despero, 2014's Into the Woods, Pixar's Onward, and she voiced Lucinda's mom, Marla, in Sophia the First. To me, Thunderella sticks out the most out of all the other Dwarfelles. Despite her being inexperienced and incapable of mastering her weather powers, I find her to be very adorable and sympathetic. Also, over the course of the movie, Thunderella managed to build up her talents and confidence with Snow White's help. And I'm also very proud that Thunderella manages to defeat the villain. Also, I think Thunderella's song is the most memorable part of the movie, due to it expressing her character and her desire to shine like the other Dwarfelles. The other Dwarfelles include Muddy, voiced by the late Carol Channing, whom has power over the earth, and she can be pretty bossy at times. Sunburn, voiced by Sally Kellerman, whom has power over sunlight, and she has a foul temper, but at heart, she is a nice and helpful individual. Blossom, voiced by the late Zsa Zsa Gabor, who has power over plants and flowers. Marina and Critterina, both voiced by Linda Gary. Marina has power over lakes and rivers, and Critterina, one of my favorite Dwarfelles next to Thunderella, has power over animals, and I find it pretty cute that her physical appearance strongly resembles a squirrel. And lastly, there's Moonbeam, also voiced by Tracey Ullman, who has power over the night. However, during the daytime, she is not herself, and she tends to sleepwalk. Next up is Mother Nature, voiced by the late Phyllis Diller, whom was in The Nutcracker Prince, Rankin Bass's Mad Monster Party, and Pixar's A Bug's Life. Mother Nature is a ditzy embodiment of the forces of nature, who is responsible for giving the Seven Dwarfelles their powers. Also, Mother Nature is depicted as the most powerful force of good, and aside from having complete control over nature, she has the power to create creatures from potions that she makes in her sanctuary at Rainbow Falls, which is shown during her song number, which, in my opinion, is not really one of my favorite songs in this movie, but it is still pretty creative. Also, I think Mother Nature can be pretty strict when she warns the Dwarfelles that she can strip them of their powers if they don't learn to use them properly and correctly. Next we come to the magical Looking Glass, voiced by the late, great Dom DeLuise. This character is a smart aleck mirror who likes to speak in rhymes and riddles. He used to serve the evil queen, but now he does the bidding of Lord Maliss. To me, the Looking Glass is a pretty humorous and charming character, mainly due to Dom DeLuise's voice. Plus, I like the part where he helps the Dwarfelles find a secret passageway. Next we have Scowl, a sarcastic owl who enjoys smoking, voiced by the late Ed Asner, who sadly died last year, and his timid best friend Batso, voiced by the legendary Frank Welker. I find these guys to be bumbling and interfering comic relief henchmen characters who try to impress and help Lord Maliss, but they constantly end up getting in the way. However, I find Scowl to be the most entertaining, while Batso is pretty innocent, and he doesn't really like the idea of being bad. Plus, due to his smoking habit, Scowl is often seen coughing and wheezing, especially during his song number, The Baddest, which I find is a pretty catchy rap song, and it's certainly a lot more entertaining than Nigel's song Pretty Bird from Rio. Heck, even better than that shark rap song from Tentacolino. Finally, we come to the villain of the story, Lord Maliss, voiced by Malcolm McDowell, who you may know as Mad Mod from Teen Titans, along with Dr. Loomis from Rob Zombie's Halloween, Dr. Calico from Disney's Bolt, and Ogthar from Dinotopia Quest for the Ruby Sunstone. Now, this terrible evil wizard is the brother of Snow White's evil stepmother, the Queen, who plans to hunt down and destroy Snow White and the prince as revenge for his sister's fate. To me, this guy is absolutely devious, scary, threatening, and very, very powerful. Plus, his dragon form is absolutely terrifying. After transforming the prince into a tiny and feeble-hooded man, whom the Dwarfelles call a Shadow Man, Malice tries several attempts to destroy Snow White. He tries to attack her at Rainbow Falls, but he was interfered by Mother Nature's lightning and earthquakes. Later, he sends a pack of horned wolves after her, and nearing the end of the movie, he attempts to petrify Snow White with a magical red cloak. And now let's move on to my final words. Overall, while Happily Ever After is not a perfect animated film, even back during the 1990s, I find it to be a pretty redeemable animated film these days. Yes, the hand-drawn animation will never top Disney's, but it's still a nice breath of fresh air to watch something traditionally animated these days. The story is thrilling and charming and fun. The main character, Snow White, is a sweet character. The Dwarfelles are memorable, helpful, and funny, even though Thunderella sticks out the most. Scowl and Batso are bumbling and silly comic reliefs, and the villain, Lord Maliss, is really threatening and devious. And I think some of the songs are great to listen to, even though they don't really fit the movie's fairy tale scenario. Lastly, I think this is an animated Snow White movie that feels underrated, and I think it's a movie that today's audiences should check out sometimes. As for my rating, I'll give it a 73% out of 100. Well, that's all for now. Be sure to join me for my next blog, Mustang Power.